What's up guys, and thank you for stopping by my channel. Today's project is this Husqvarna grass trimmer, and the problem is that it won't start. In a previous video we diagnosed what was wrong with it, and in this video we're going to try to fix it. In the last video we figured out that the fuel lines had become brittle and broken off inside the fuel tank. We're going to have to replace all the fuel lines and unfortunately clean out the carburetor for any contaminants. We've got to get to the carburetor now, so let's go ahead and remove the air filter cover, the air filter itself, and then the nuts that hold the air filter base to the engine. Now carefully remove the air filter base, at which point we can see the carburetor. Now we can go ahead and disconnect the throttle linkage, followed by the fuel lines. It's interesting that the fuel lines outside of the tank are in pretty good shape. It's the long exposure inside the tank to any ethanol in the gas that has destroyed it. And what's left inside the tank is a small plastic piece that basically keeps the return line from coming out of the tank. Now that the carburetor is off the engine, we can go ahead and disassemble it and take a look at the metering diaphragm. It's definitely hardened up a little bit. Let's go ahead and remove it from the plate and take a good look at it. It's definitely lost most of its flexibility, and it's definitely going to need to be replaced. Now let's go ahead and look at the other diaphragm on the other side of the carburetor and check for contamination since the fuel line broke off. There's definitely some trash inside the carburetor, but there could have been a lot worse. Basically, it wasn't ran with the fuel filter, but unfortunately it was primed, so the contamination still got in. Before replacing the metering diaphragm, let's check it against the old one to make sure that they're exactly the same before reinstalling it. And after checking the carburetor and replacing everything that we need, and cleaning anything that needs to be cleaned, let's go ahead and reassemble the carburetor. Now we're going to go ahead and move to replacing the fuel lines. Cut the fuel line at a diagonal. This will help it make it easier to stick in the hole in the fuel tank. Next, what you'll use is an offset pair of long pliers to help pull the fuel line into the fuel tank. If your line slides in very easily, there's probably going to be a leak at the fuel line. To be pretty tight so that fuel doesn't come out of the tank. And once there's enough fuel line into the tank, go ahead and pull the end out and cut the angled part off. We're going to put our fuel filter on this part, and this is going to be our fuel pickup from the tank. The next line is going to be our return line. Go ahead and do the exact same thing as you did before in installing the line, except this time when you cut the end of the hose straight, you're going to put that small plastic piece on instead. After that, go ahead and pull the fuel line up until the fuel line won't come out. And once you've cut the fuel line to the proper length for the carburetor, go ahead and install the fuel lines, put it onto the engine, and then reconnect the throttle linkage. Now we're going to go ahead and reinstall the air filter base along with the nuts that hold it to the engine. Replace the air filter and its cover. Let's go ahead and throw some gas in there and try priming the system and give it a start. I've got a lot of questions and comments about the startup of any of the equipment that I'm fixing. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the unedited version so that you can see what I actually go through to get it started. We're going to go ahead and try to follow these starting instructions just so that we're always consistent on how we start it. And as you can see, it ran just fine when it's fully choked. When it's partially choked, it ran kind of up and down. And when there was no choke, it didn't want to run at all. It definitely needed more fuel. So what I did was I went to the L screw and turned it counterclockwise a quarter turn. This gave enough gas for it to idle, but not enough for it to run. So I had to turn it yet another quarter turn counterclockwise so it would actually get up to full speed. I also added more gas on the high end by going to the H screw and turning it counterclockwise a quarter turn. I then had to adjust the idle screw on top because adjusting the L screw affects the engine speed. Thanks for watching this video, and if you have any comments or questions about your small engines, please leave them in the comments below. And please consider subscribing as it really supports this channel, and I'll see you guys in my next video.